Discovery.
3, 2, 1, 0, 0. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast that's about other podcasts, where every single week we have a book club style discussion about a podcast. And at the end of the episode, we're going to have a brand new recommendation, and we'll talk about that one next week. I'm Kirk.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Matt.
And this week we are talking about a show called What Was That Like?, where host Scott Johnson talks to a wide variety of people with amazing stories, basically is all it comes down to. And the episode specifically we're talking about is William Hung was on American Idol. And I basically chose this just because as soon as I saw that on there, I was like, okay, I have to hear more about this guy, because I just remember his one giant moment in pop culture history, and I wanted to find out more about him. Because to be fair, you can listen to a lot more harrowing stories. You can listen to a lot of things like that. He talks to people who were attacked by grizzly bears, or their plane crashes, or they won the lottery, or they were shot. And like, it's a wide variety of different things. But I was just too curious, and so I had to pick William Hung's episode. So what do you guys think?
Well, William Hung is kind of a normal guy.
I wasn't expecting that either.
Yeah, other than he's descended from Confucius.
Yeah, he dropped that real quick. I don't know how Scott found out about this, but that's serious.
Yeah, I don't know how fact check that is, but I mean, it sounded more like a family legend type thing. Like, yeah, my aunt said that, so yeah, I'm Confucius's great grandson.
Yeah, and Lao Tzu's my uncle.
You gotta just be related to everybody. But I was kind of blown away by this whole story because, and I mean, Matt, were you also a part of did people at your school watch American Idol, and you knew people that had like American Idol parties? Because we were definitely invited to these things growing up, and we went to some too.
Yes, but I never gave a darn about this show growing up in the slightest. And I felt really bad for this guy.
Fan.
I felt so bad for this guy.
Yeah, we talked about that. So for anybody who doesn't know, William Hung was essentially pretty early viral in a not good way. So American Idol always had the first, I think it was like 2 episodes, were showing everyone that was bad. And at the time, I thought it was funny, but it also is extremely mean-spirited when you look back on it, to essentially just have a highlight reel of the worst of the worst. And a lot of times people get very defensive. And I mean, you kind of get that because they've been told by people, their family and everything, they're a fantastic singer. And then Simon Cowell was mean just for no reason, an extra level. And then that was also broadcast on network television when it was in its heyday. And so everyone saw this. And William Hung was famous for singing the Ricky Martin song, She Bangs. And there was a lot of dance moves going on. There was a lot of things going on that made this video great. But even when this happened, I was like, I don't feel like he's that bad a singer. Like, he clearly, like, this is his second language, but like, I don't really get it. I think it was some to do with the dancing, but he became like a whole thing on this. And this, I'm trying to remember.
He was definitely not the worst singer that they had on there. There were some people that could not stay on pitch. He was at least on pitch.
Significantly the worst dancer, though. I agree. But he talked about that. The fact that he was so earnest and he didn't clap back at them makes it that much worse to me. I'm like, oh, this.
Honestly, that was what we like, especially re-listening to it now, because this was how long ago was this? 10 years ago, something like that.
More
is when this happened. It could have been so. Forever ago, I saw this video. I saw this whole thing happen. But now listening to it, you're like, wow, this guy's kind of cool. He really wins you over the whole time.
I remember the singing and the dancing. That's all I remember. I don't remember the response from the judges or him coming in, like that part. I did watch it when it was on TV. I remember watching, because we watched the first few seasons of American Idol because it was just, there was the zeitgeist at the time. That was the thing. And but I don't remember that part. And it did make the story so much different because he's just so earnest. And they talk about, he's like, I'm an engineering school or engineering student at Berkeley. And, my parents don't know I'm here because they get mad because I'm missing school.
Yeah. He's like, I missed 2 days of school for this. I gave it everything I had. And it's like, will you guys stop being mean to him, please? At least Paula Abdul, even though she was clearly stoned, she was super nice to him.
She was always stoned on that show.
Yeah. Well, I have a soft spot for people that did, because what you immediately see hearing him talk about it is he's self-aware. Like, he's like, I know I'm not the best singer. And he's like, and yeah, I was really nervous, so I had some weird fucking dance moves. and not as nonchalant as that, but he's like, whatever. Who cares? I'm just going to go be an engineer anyway. Who cares?
I just wanted to have fun. He's like,
Yeah.
I didn't think those. Now, I was interested in kind of like the behind the curtain of how they do American Idol, him explaining the different scenarios. Like, there was 3,000 something people when he first got there, and he got through to like the top 150 or something like that in the first day. And it was because, and that was what was happening. They were narrowing down.
They were selecting some people to be funny.
Here's the best ones that sing really good. Here's the ones that are going to be really entertaining and horrible that everyone's going to love to watch fail. And that's it's
so
horrible,
mean.
but it's also it's interesting to see how the process worked. And that is something that he was self-aware. I believe in certain points. I don't know if he was self-aware on that part, because there are times like, I was so excited. I got through. I did not think I was going to get through. And, I don't know.
Yeah.
He was so likable. Like, there was nothing about him that wasn't likable. Even now, like, I was wondering if he had gone through the machine and the machine pooped him out. Like, because, he had his album and all that other stuff later on. We'll talk about it. But I was worried that when we listened to this, it was going to be like, yeah, the industry just destroyed me.
Yeah, he's like bitter about the whole experience. But that is absolutely not how he was.
I think that was maybe my favorite thing, was that he's like, hey, I'm jumping ahead right now, but he talks about, like, he knew that his fame was only going to last so long. He's like, hey, I was making some good money for a little bit. I knew it wasn't going to last forever, but I capitalized on it while I could. And he did.
That's all I wish. That's all I wish for these people who get made fun of and everything, is like them to go like, they made fun of me, but like, I made a lot of money. That's what I hope.
Who's
That's
laughing
what I hope
now?
for all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, that is totally the kind of the vibe you get from him. He really looks back on like this time, even though people were mean to him.
Yeah.
Like, that was the whole thing. The judges on the show were mean to him. And so, like, for him to be able to just kind of come through this and be
like Simon said, it was
laughing.
grotesque.
Yeah, he said grotesque, literally. It's like, man, that is, you could say that less dickishly. There has to be a way.
But there was something funny. He's like, and Simon, he always has to say something mean. I love that.
And I mean, he was not wrong.
Well, that's just all
not.
It's literally, it's like, I know so many people like, the Absolutely Productions, Tim Heidecker, Tim and Eric, how they hire all those actors who are like bad by all accounts, right? On purpose for a certain aesthetic. And it's like, yeah, you're kind of laughing at what they're doing, but they were cast so well that like,
it kind of fits, kind of works.
It fits there. They kind of wanted someone who's bad. But it's like, it doesn't change the fact that they were cast because they were bad.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, as long as they keep hiring you, who cares?
Pretty much. I think that is a fair way to look at it for sure. But yeah, throughout this episode, my mind was constantly blown by the career trajectory of William Hung. Because, he started out civil engineering student at UC Berkeley. He is an immigrant from Hong Kong. He moved here when he was 10. And so he was in school when this whole thing happened. And he ended up doing just this wide range of stuff. But after all of this, because he got famous, he was offered a record deal. It was $25,000. It wasn't. They weren't.
I love that $25,000 record deal. It just sounds so funny
for somebody who was just a student. If they're like, "Hey, do you want to go play some tour stops and like have a record and all this stuff?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I haven't listened to this record. I kind of want to now. He mentions that throughout, he drops inspirational quotes in between
the tracks,
in between songs. So really paying a tribute to his ancestor Confucius. He's thrown out just little drops of wisdom for you throughout this. And then he will then perform "She Bangs" by Ricky Martin. And I'm assuming that it's "She Bangs" every song and just a different like inspirational quote in between the songs.
I'm going to look up the album while we keep talking.
Yeah, I also really love that he actually really enjoys that song.
I don't think it was like corny for him at all. He's like, no, this is a good song. He's
like, "She Bangs." That's a banger. Like, that's good.
Yeah. And he fully committed.
Yeah.
I'll say that for William Hung. This man fully commits. And that is a great personality trait.
Oh, well, because he was like on some big kick, like pretty significantly, a good amount of time after his appearance.
I remember
four
albums.
Four albums.
Yeah.
He's got William Hung, "We Are the Champions," 2009.
We Are the Champions.
William Hung, "Hung for the Holidays," 2007.
That's good.
Miracles, "Happy Summer Fun" from William Hung, 2005, and the first one, "Inspiration" from William Hung in 2004. So that's when it was, 2004. So this was 2 years before he graduated.
Wow.
When he came out with his album.
That is crazy.
It is crazy.
Well, and that's just because 2009, dude, I remember there was like a William Hung resurgence where like people were trying to sell William Hung again. And it's like, you know him from being not great.
Let me read some of the songs that he covered. He did "She Bangs." Obviously.
Has to.
"Bailamos." I would love to hear that one because if English is his second language, what is Spanish? Like,
third.
That's gotta be difficult.
What if it's his first language? I don't know.
Maybe.
How did he learn Spanish in Hong Kong? Oh,
"I Believe I Can Fly." Hotel California.
Wait, which "I Believe I Can Fly" is this?
I have heard his "Hotel California." I have.
Have you?
Yes, and I don't think I realized it was his. Yes, I have heard that.
Who's performing this?
"Can You Feel the Love," "Two Worlds," "Rocket Man," "Circle of Life," YMCA, and "Shake Your Bonbon."
It's just top 40s. He likes everything that's on the radio.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got some Elton John. You had to bring in another Ricky Martin move in there. You had "Village People," the classic. There's a lot of things that I don't know if I would actually enjoy listening to this album, but I am genuinely curious.
Played at a eventual wedding somewhere. Ask the DJ if he's got any William Hung.
Yeah, could be. But at one point, William Hung was #1 on the independent Billboard chart.
That's so awesome.
So that's the thing, is like it kind of started in this place where he became the butt of all the jokes. This is early internet. That would be like YouTube was real janky at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there was like one video everybody was watching, and it was William Hung fail on American Idol. And then from that, though, he kind of made it. He kind of made it a little bit. Even though he got booted off the show, he made it in a much more fun way where he didn't become like, because that was always my problem with American Idol, is it was kind of like machining pop stars. So there wasn't a lot of like character to the people they were putting out. It was kind of all the same thing.
Oh yeah.
It was just like, I don't know. It was just like find the new pop star of the minute. It was, I don't know.
Then William Hung showed up.
Yeah. And he broke the doors down, but no, I don't know. It was always something different there. And so he got to kind of do his own thing. He got to set a different course than that, but he was still successful.
But he obviously owned it, man. That's the thing.
He did.
He owned it. He's like,
that was the thing. He went hard. You know, he's like, I put everything into this.
No, he made an album called
gave it
Hung
everything.
for the Holidays.
Yeah,
Hung for the Holidays.
That is full commitment right there. Just on naming, you can see it.
But I'm just picturing I'm just picturing his like producer or manager like pitching it to him. He's like, I'm all for it, man. Yeah. And the producer's like, it's making a joke about you. And he's like, whatever. Fine.
Sounds good. I'll sell several copies.
Yeah.
But so he said that he kind of toured for 4-ish years. Pretty solid.
He got to do what he played. He played the Rose Bowl. He sang in the Rose Bowl or something for like 60,000 people. That's pretty insane.
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing.
He was on Jimmy Kimmel and he was on Letterman, or no, it was Jay Leno. And like he did a bunch of these appearances where he kind of got to do the whole, he made it thing. You know, you do the circuit, you go on the press, you go on tour, you make albums, you do the whole thing. But he also knew that it wasn't going to last forever. And this is where his career started getting like insane to me. Because
and that's where this podcast to me was cool, because I'm learning things about the guy that I didn't know anything about now.
Yeah, no, it was cool.
And
to
it was
learn
very
more
entertaining
about like American Idol. But then Scott Johnson really is a great interviewer because he asked questions that were interesting and he drove the conversation at a different place than you thought it was going to be. So after this, after he started getting less and less tours, after like 4 years of doing this, he went back to school and he, I guess, finished. And then he started working for the LA Sheriff's Department and statistical analysis.
I love how he described being it not being what he thought he was signing up for. And I know that it's stupid because this is just the way I would think if I took a job and I thought that it was like CSI work. But like, dang it, I didn't know the S in CSI was statistical analysis. Because this is ridiculous. This is so boring. I'm sitting at a desk crunching crime numbers.
No,
because he thought he was going to be like doing crime scene investigation.
Yeah, and this is another time where you kind of see his personality a little bit, because he's like, I did not like this job because every day I was hearing about bad things happening. I was like accumulating rape statistics and I hated it. And so he's kind of just like, he couldn't even be in that like negative space. So he's like, no, I gotta go. And so
he's like, there's no
going,
silver lining there. Yeah.
He's like, this is all bad. I'm having a bad time. My brain feels terrible after work. But he did end up switching over to he worked for the public health department as well. But
like LA County or something, right?
Yeah. But then throughout all this, he was developing a couple more skills that would end up being professions later on. So he was apparently working on public speaking through Toastmasters. And he was also
look into that. I've heard a lot about him and I've seen, things, but I don't know a lot about what the organization's about. I know it's like to train you to be able to do public speaking.
Well,
but I feel like it's a lot deeper than just that.
The restaurant that I worked with hosted a chapter and they would come in every Thursday or Tuesday. They were the worst. The absolute
They were the worst.
They were terrible. They didn't buy anything and all this other stuff. It was like the space, whatever. But basically, yeah, they come in and they develop not just their speech giving, like presenting abilities, but they also are honing in a speech, like one speech that then like you work on all of that with one speech that you just keep editing and like working through. And you just keep doing that same one every time. And then it'll be like, okay, let's do new speeches now. So you're creating a backlog of speeches that you can give at different events and whatnot. Like if you had a wedding coming up, you could be practicing your best man speech at the thing and literally be practicing for that specific.
That's so
speech,
interesting that
right?
you can pick like some specific event. No, I feel like if I did Toastmasters, I would have to pick a really stupid event and I'd have to practice for the dumbest speech of all time. Like,
I had to give a best man speech once. And I remember the maid of honor went first and she had like a 5-page thing. And I was like, I ain't write nothing down. I was like, this sucks. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't prepare near as much as she did. But yeah, I don't think it was a really good speech. I should have done Toastmasters.
That's the answer. I should have done Toastmasters.
But it's just so weird because it's like about public speaking. You'd think it would be about like
in general,
Yeah, and not like
not so specific.
Yeah, I didn't
write
know
a speech.
Yeah,
Just weird.
It's interesting.
I wonder if it kind of takes I wonder if it takes a little pressure off your brain, though. You know, you don't have to develop a new speech every week or every month, whatever. You know, you can kind of really work on the presenting of it.
Well,
and you're getting critiques from people that are also trying to work on theirs. So there's probably some very constructive criticism where it's criticism because everyone wants that, but in a constructive way because everyone also has to give a speech. So they don't want you to roast them.
I like to imagine it's more like that scene from Blues Brothers where they just throw bottles at them the whole time while they're playing Rawhide. But yeah, so he was working on public speaking kind of throughout this, it sounds like. And then there was another thing that he was doing throughout this, and that was playing poker. He apparently thought this was a great use of his free time. He liked playing poker. And both of these ended up being part of his career. He is now a keynote speaker and also
and
like
a speaking coach.
Yeah, a public speaking coach, like a trainer. And he said that he's won a bunch of awards for his ability to evaluate speeches and to critique people in a constructive way. And then he also has done several professional poker tournaments. And it's just like, wait, are we talking about the same guy? But honestly, if your entire reference up to this point, like mine was this one video, this guy is awesome. This whole thing is like, okay, this guy is pretty badass the whole time.
Here's what came across to me about him, not only in his performance and stuff, which I think it came across very strong there, but also through his trajectory and the way he talked. He's just got this childlike whimsy. You're just like, I want to make a difference and I want to do something that people like, and I also want to do something I like. And that's what he does. And I think that's so cool. And I don't know. I think it's hilarious. And he wrote a book. He authored a book, Championed by Choice. They talk. And I will say, I very much respected the fact that he knew people made fun of him. He knew people were he was the butt of jokes, but he never let that bring him down. And that's what Scott Johnson was talking about, is like, most people that bothers and it makes them, not want to put themselves out there. You use it kind of as a stepping stone to put yourself out there a little bit further somehow. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I just assume people are going to make fun of me and not agree with me, but I just try to figure out where I can take that negative feedback and turn it into something positive. Yeah. And that's what he did. It's just such a great life lesson. There's something deep there somewhere.
You nailed it when you said childlike whimsy. That's exactly what it is. The idea that everything's fine and it's everything will be fine. Yeah, I just switched careers to be a poker champion.
I mean, it is true because think about it. Right now, my daughter she's 12. She doesn't dance around the living room in her underwear like she used to when she was a little girl. And she's tiny, 2-year-old with no inhibitions. It was just I'm just going to dance till I fall over because I'm tired. But now you grow up and you feel rejection and people actually laughing at you.
Bones are cracking and creaking.
Not that far up. That's where we're getting, where your bones are making noises.
But the older you get, the harder it is to hold on to that, not caring about what other people think mentality. And he's somehow found this way to do that. And that's amazing. And I respect that a lot.
Yeah. Well, and what's cool is it doesn't sound like that moment made him have to do that. He already did that. He wasn't like, wow, everybody's making fun of me. I should learn not to care.
I need to process somehow.
Yeah. He's just like, I'm the coolest dude in the freaking world. And I don't care what they say.
And I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. There may be something to, him being an immigrant coming from another country and this being his second language. And he just had to live with that. Learning, if you go to public school and you have an accent that's pretty strong and you look different, kids are brutal. So maybe he just, learned at a young age to, just roll with it. Hey, lead into it. Heck, I used to do that at school. I mean, I knew I was the butt of jokes, but I would always make the joke about myself first because it doesn't matter, If I'm the one making the joke, it's just a little bit.
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I had heard about this show I read something where, what shows are you binging? And this was one that came up. I had no idea. He's from right in our area. He's from Safety Harbor, Florida. We're from Tampa. And so that's a cool thing. And we've done a lot of shows like this where you dig into just people and their stories, and you kind of get like just this richness of how different everyone is. And Scott Johnson brings William Hung on this show. And by the end, you're like, this is a pretty admirable guy. There are really cool things about William Hung that I do admire. And so it's that I think is a sign of a great interview and a great interviewer. And so I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I want to be William Hung's friend now. I want to be his friend, and we need to have him on the show.
I would love to have him on the show.
I'm hung for hung.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
You know what it means.
I don't know what I just signed up for.
but yeah, fantastic show. Take a look. He always has great titles that are very easy to tell what it's generally going to be about. So go check out some more of What Was That Like and see if there's something that interests you. But it was a really cool one.
So that brings us to this week's recommendation. And I've listened to this show on and off for a while now. It's on the Maximum Fun Network. So when I listen to Bim Bam, I'm always hearing ads for it and stuff. And it's Judge John Hodgman. And it's a really great show because what he does is he will mediate ridiculous arguments. And he will things that there's usually not a real answer, but he's a judge. So he will give you a definitive answer and you are supposed to follow the judge's orders. And it's great. But the episode that we listened to just recently that we enjoyed a lot was kind of a special where they kind of go through a bunch of different cases at once, like what they call like docket clearing. You know, they did like 4 or 5 cases in this episode, but they had special guest LeVar Burton, which by the way, best voice ever. LeVar Burton can read me to sleep any night of the week. That dude's amazing. But the episode I recommend is Tough Talk with LeVar Burton, and that is Judge John Hodgman, and the episode is Tough Talk with LeVar Burton. And remember,
there's always more to discover.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network.
You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.